All right, looks like I am now live. So let me start off by saying, yeah, this is my first live on YouTube. It's not my first live on TikTok. We are live on TikTok and on YouTube. And this is my first Bright Futures live, though. And as far as my name is, again, Matt Washington, if you've never met me. And I've started this company called Bright Futures. And what Bright Futures is, it's basically a company that is designed to take college students, high school students, and introduce them to the world of renewable energy and really solar is really what I'm focused on right now. I am a representative for a solar company as well. And but the reason I started Bright Futures is I took the two names Bright, meaning obviously for the sun, but also that the fact that our future should be bright. I really want the next generations to be amazing. I feel like the news and social media push fear and tragedy and because it gets clicks, it gets eyeballs, it gets people watching. And so we have a negative view of the world. I think it was I don't know if it was Will Smith, but for some reason I think it was Will Smith. But it's like it's not that more bad things are happening, it's just we have more cameras to see all the bad things, right? And so with AI coming out and not just AI but the data centers, the amount of energy that they need for the data centers for AI is crazy. So between that, between stem cell research, between robotics, self-driving vehicles and humanoid robotics that are coming down the pipe, all of this is going to depend on energy. And there's just such a huge field for people to get into. And there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of good that can be done. And all this energy that's needed, it should be, in my opinion, renewable energy, right? It should be clean energy, and I just want to get more young people into renewable energy. And unfortunately, as my voice breaks, unfortunately, the the way that people are introduced to solar is door knocking. Like it's like, or cold calling, or they're brought into the field and it's like, the field needs to generate leads. And so young people are brought into it. It's like, okay, you're going to go knock on doors. And, I've knocked on doors before and they basically tell you it's going to take you 100 doors to get one sit. You just got to deal with people who slamming doors in your face and all this kind of stuff. And it's like that's really not something that needs to happen in order to get solar, to get people involved in it. And or they got to do cold calling, and they're just basically doing cold calling. And so the future of solar and what I want to do is bring young people into it without having to do that kind of stuff. So that's why I started Bright Futures to I offer them a position. By the way, you can go on Bright Futures Advocates, Bright Future, no S, brightfutureadvocates.com if you know a high school or college student or a recent grad who's looking to get into who wants to look into work in the solar industry. And it's basically lead generation, but there's no door knocking or cold calling involved in my company. So, but the thing is, the reason I got into solar is because it's such an important thing to do, and I don't think people really understand, you know, as far as globally, I put into a bunch of different phrases, starting big and coming in. Globally, the sun puts more energy on the earth in an hour than all humanity uses in a year, right? It's just ridiculous. So why do we not just collect it? Just pick it, free energy falls out of the sky every day, more than humanity needs. And we're like, well, let's go dig up some old dinosaur bones and get some oil, out of the ground and do all this stuff. But the simple fact is that eventually fossil fuels are going to run out. Now, whether that's 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, I went on to Grok and asked, how long is oil going to last? And oil was about 50 years, 50 to now. Now, obviously, it did say It depends on how much we use, depend new deposits can be found, blah, 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 right? But it did say around 50 years. Gas was 50 to 90 years as far as natural gas, as far as that works out. And so the thing is, we can't wait. Like humanity needs energy. Like we've gotten to a point where if we lost the internet, it would be crazy. But if we lost electricity, that would be even more crazy. Like we wouldn't be able to even understand or comprehend what that life is like. So the point is that we can't wait until we start running out of fossil fuels to then start actually switching over to renewable energy. Like we can't make that switch to, billions of people across the planet. So as far as I'm by the way, and I'm going to talk about the positives of solar, and then I'm going to start, like I said, I'm going to start globally, and I'm going to narrow my way down, and I'm going to wrap up with personal stuff, as far as like, the federal tax credit is going away, and with the difference between a lease and a loan, and what if I move? And if anybody has any questions, I have the chat up. I think I have the chat up. Do I have the chat up? I should probably bring the chat up, right? So I do have the chat up now. So if anybody has any questions about solar, I'll be more than welcome to answer them. I've been doing this for over 13 years now, and I got started with solar as a basically because I watched a YouTube video. Actually, it wasn't even a YouTube video. What I did first was I was watching 60 Minutes, and I saw oh, I can't remember his name, but it was somebody who was like a geneticist, and he was basically he was changing the genetic code of like algae, and the byproduct out of them was oil. It's kind of interesting, right? And oh, his name is just not is just escaping me. But anyway, so I was watching on 60 Minutes, but what he did was he started talking about his Tesla car. Like he actually the interview was in his car, and he started talking about Tesla. And then I looked up Tesla, and I found a Solar City, and I watched a YouTube video about that. And then I said I want to work for Elon Musk. So that's where how I got into solar. And but as far as the solar industry goes, it's such a big thing that people should do. So without even worrying about climate change, I know climate change is like such a big like red button. It somehow climate change has become politically, charged. So I'm not going to talk about climate change. But I'm just talking about the reasons why people should go solar and leaving that out, right? So I'm still talking about globally, right? So air pollution, smog, acid rain, respiratory problems. The reason why China is pushing EVs and solar is because they have like major healthcare problems. In the USA, we have one city that's over 5 million people. That's New York City. In China, there's 21 cities over 5 million people. Like that's ridiculous. There's four cities over 20 million people. And so their healthcare issues are going to be huge, which is why when you see like China, you see people with the masks on all the time and this is why China is pushing so much for renewable energy and pushing, electric vehicles because they've realized, how much this air pollution is doing to their population, is doing to their healthcare system. It's not because they really care about their people. It's because it's going to bankrupt them. So let's not wait for that here. Now in America, we're more spread out in the United States at least. We don't have these huge giant cities. But when you drive past a power plant that's just chugging, you know, you would never sit in your car and turn your car on and in a garage, right? And just sitting there, right? So because you understand that there's invisible things that are polluting the air that your car is making. Well, it's the same thing. Just because it's spread out into the sky, you're still breathing it. Part of it is going into you. It's still going into our groundwater. And so we just shouldn't do that, especially if there's another option, which there is, right? Which is solar. So anyway, so that's globally. For the USA, for America, here's the thing. There are 300,000 jobs in the solar industry right now, and that increases every year. We need to become energy independent. It's just important that we become energy independent. If you want to stop all the wars and you want to stop in the Middle East, well, just stop funding the weapons program of the oil producing countries. Stop buying all their oil. That's where their money comes from. And then also we need to be able to power all of our EVs, all of our AI, all of our robots, and this is all the things that we need to do, personally. So I don't want to get too political and whatnot, but again, the environment and everything. But again, energy independence. We could be energy independent. We have plenty of space where if you put solar on your home, we put solar out in solar farms out there to make energy. Like we have plenty of space to soak up on. Now, all we would need is batteries. Just because the sun's not out all the time and the wind's not blowing all the time, then we just need batteries. And then the batteries, I know people talk about like, oh, batteries, they oh, it's harmful trying to pull up the mining of the minerals and the rare earth minerals. It's like, well, here's the thing. Once the batteries are out of the ground, like we're already doing harmful things to our environment, and in burning fossil fuels, and it's not renewable. So if we're going to do something harmful, let's do it once and then not continue doing it and rely on continuing doing it. Because with batteries, by the way, just so you know, when batteries go bad, all the materials are still in there. Like when I say bad, and when it won't take in any more energy, all the materials are still in there. 90, I think it was like 96, 97% of a battery, the materials can be recycled, and you can just make new batteries and then just recharge them. Right? This is look up the company Redwood Materials, which is looking into doing these types of things. So as far as uh, our energy independence. We just need solar and batteries, and that's what we should be working for. And people can put that on their own house. They can do it for themselves in their own house. And I'm getting, again, I'm in the USA. I'm going to get to local, and then I'm going to get to personal stuff that people ask. Of course, if there's a question that pops up, I'll be willing to answer those questions. Um, So also, as far as energy independence goes, our country is really bad at oil. We're bad at oil. I remember I don't think I think it was Spike Lee who did that thing about the Gulf of Mexico. And when I think Obama was president at the time, and just every day how much oil spilled out into the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, whatever we're calling it, the water, and how it destroyed everything, and how we just couldn't fix it. Between 2004 and 2023, there were 1,182 oil pipeline breaks in America. 1,100. So that's on average 62 breaks a year. That's 750,000 barrels of oil. Okay. About 40,000 barrels a year. By the way, 1 barrel of oil equates to about 40 gallons, right? So that's about 30 million gallons of oil that we just poured all over the place, into our water, into our ground, into the ecosystem. So again, we don't need, some of the major breaks that we've had, pipeline breaks were, the Keystone, 2022. By the way, this is not like decades and decades ago. 2022, the Keystone pipeline break spilled 588,000 gallons of oil all over Kansas. Right. In 2010, the Kalamazoo River spilled 843,000 gallons of water into the river. Now, do you not think that thank you. Do you not think that affected something, that affected the environment there, that affected the people there, the groundwater? How long do you think, I think it took like 3 or 4 years from to fix that. But that's crazy. And you're talking about 1,100 breaks in 19 years. Like this is not necessary. I saw there's a meme I put up a lot. It says, a solar spill is just called a bright day or a sunny day, right? It's just a good day. So let's get away from having to transport and drag out this oil and gas all over the place and the fracking and all that kind of stuff. It's just not necessary. If it was necessary, hey, I get it. It's necessary, but it's not. We can change to better modalities of making energy. And again, the sun puts so much energy on our planet. It puts literally enough energy on our planet in 1 hour than all humanity uses for the entire year, right? So why are we not taking that free energy? Why don't we just take that? I've seen people say like we should go nuclear. We don't need to go nuclear, or we already are nuclear. There's a big nuclear ball that literally is throwing energy at us every single day, right? So why don't we collect that and store that? And that's our nuclear energy, right? So anyway, let's go. So and then when you talk about so that's globally, that's America. Let's talk about local. Let's talk about the utilities. Okay, the utilities are monopolies. Our utilities, they do whatever they want. They charge whatever they want. They have contracts that say um, that they're not allowed to lose money, right? And so I tell people all the time, like if I sat with you, if you bought your house and then and you said, okay, I need power from my house. Let me get some quotes, right? And you had a solar person come and you had someone from the utility come and you had to decide. There's no one that would choose the utility. Like the utility company would have to say, yeah, we're going to hook your house up to our grid. The grid is really old, and so it loses power. So, and we have to constantly maintain it. And if there's storms and whatnot, we have to constantly send out, people to fix it. And we have to maintain all this. We have to maintain this big grid. And so we're going to charge you for energy, but we're also going to charge you the same amount for delivery, for bringing the energy to your house. And a lot of times the generation, we're going to keep closing power plants. We can close them if we want to. And we're going to bring the energy from like hundreds of miles away. And we're going to have to step up the voltage and we're going to have to then we're going to transform it to transport it, hundreds of miles. And then we're going to have to bring down the voltage and then we're going to have to uh, uh, bring it down even further to get it to your home, and it's going to have to go through peaker plants, and it's going to have to go through substations, and this is our system. This is how we're going to bring you energy. And then you sat with a solar person, and the solar person's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put solar panels on your house. They're going to catch the energy out of the sky, and since it's on your house, it doesn't have to go anywhere, so we don't have to charge you a whole bunch for maintaining the grid. Uh, there's no stepping up and stepping down energy. It goes right into your house. It gets converted it's in DC format, but it's got to get converted to AC format, like by an inverter, which is like a box they put on your house. And yeah, and so the energy comes from the sun, so it's free. So we're not going to pollute. It's renewable. And we don't have to keep changing the price on you because we know what the equipment costs. We know what it's going to cost to bring it. What the system, the installation, we know all the costs, right? Unlike the grid where the costs change all the time. So they have to raise your rates all the time and change your rates, and the price of gas and oil goes up and all these things. So it's like, hey, we're gonna put this on your roof. We know the cost. We're gonna spread it out over 20 years, and then after 20 years, it's paid off, and then we won't charge you anymore. Um, or 25 years or whatever the thing is. There is no person who would go with the utility. Like if you had the choice and these were the two things, these were the two options that you had, no one would choose the utility. Because that's not the way it works, because you just have the utility, people are just like, oh, I'm used to this, I'm used to this, and changing is hard, right? It's easier. I'd rather just deal with the devil I know than do something different, even if it's better for me. But these utilities, I mean, in Massachusetts, by the way, let me bring this up. Let me share my screen. I know on TikTok, unfortunately, you guys can't see this. I am on YouTube Live right now at the Bright Futures. And I'm going to be doing this every week. I'm going to be doing this weekly on Monday. I'm going to do a solar, and I'll take questions. I'm just going to be doing a solar explanation. Right now, I'm in my ranty why everybody should get solar part, but I'm going to get more to specifics and specific questions, and anything in the chat that comes up, I will answer those well. I haven't been breathing. Let me take a drink. I don't know what it is with these waters, but I always dribble on myself. I don't know why. Why with core water I can't drink. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. to the live audience here. And again, I'm sorry on TikTok. I just threw TikTok on just to be on it. If you had questions, feel free to answer to ask, and I'll answer them. Like I said, I've been in solar for over 13 years and doing it for a while, and I just really am passionate about it and think everyone should go solar. So this is the PowerPoint I use when I do my presentations. I'm not even going to make it a big spreadsheet, a big presentation thing. But for those of you who can't see, this was in Massachusetts in 2022, I want to say it was. Massachusetts, they raised the prices of everyone's electric bill 63%. This is from the Fed, by the way. This is not like something I made up. So they raised prices 63% in 1 year, without notice, because they closed the power plant. They closed a nuclear power plant in Massachusetts 2022, and they needed to do some renovations on the grid. And so they raised everyone's prices 63%, which means if you had a $200 an average electric bill, your electric bill went from 200 to 326 in 1 year. That's crazy, right? Like, and what could people do about it? Nothing, because the utilities are a monopoly. You could do nothing about it. Well, actually, you could do something. You could switch to solar power, which is what a lot of people did, and there was a lot of solar sold in Massachusetts, and there still is because their electric prices are very high. But this could happen anywhere. This could happen in any place in America, in all the utilities. Again, they all have contracts that say they're not allowed to lose money, and that you need power. So I tell people, you have a choice. You have a choice of either staying with the utility, you have a choice of getting solar, or you have a choice of not using electricity anymore. Those are your three choices. And out of those three choices, solar works the best. And I'm going to go through a little bit more of why it works the best. But this is just me ranting about, why we should get away from these utilities and gas and oil and all that kind of stuff. So as far as also the utility is very inefficient. So just so you understand how the inefficient generation of power. So when you have power, like I have this light on, I got these things going on. So I got my fan down here because I'm big and I sweat and it's hot in New York. But every single time, every kilowatt hour, by the way, a kilowatt hour is just like gallons of gasoline. A kilowatt hour is how they measure electricity, right? And they charge you for every kilowatt hour you use. And a kilowatt hour is, it's again, there's a difference in a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour. So something I explain to people a lot when they're looking at a system like a solar system, like they'll say, oh, it's a 5,000 kilowatt system. Well, a 5,000 kilowatt system just tells you the size of the system. It doesn't tell you how much energy the system can make. So, for example, a 5,000 a 5,000 kilowatt system could make 7,000 kilowatt hours in a year. It could make 3,000 kilowatt hours in a year, right? It depends on with the same system size. It depends on how much sun it gets, right? How much energy it creates is based upon that. So there's a difference in kilowatts and kilowatt hours. The way I explain it to homeowners when I'm sitting with them is, it's a difference. Like if you have a 100-watt light bulb, the 100-watt light bulb will that's the size of the white light bulb, right? But it depends on how much energy that light bulb uses, depends on how long you turn it on, right? If you turn it on for 10 minutes, it's not going to use up as much energy as if you left it on, all day long, right? So a kilowatt is just the size. It just talks about the size of the system. Kilowatt hours relates to how much the system produces, how much energy it's going to produce. Usually in a year. When you're talking solar systems, everything goes based off of a year. Okay. So, but to get back to these utilities, so there's inefficient generation. So every kilowatt hour that I'm using right now needs to be created at the power plant, right? The power plant is making and matching, it's putting out every kilowatt hour that you need, at every single home needs, every single house you have. You turn on the air conditioner, that's got to be made. There's no storage. They don't store it, right? So what happens is, this is why a lot of utilities are switching over to peak and off-peak billing, because During peak times, like between the hours of like 3, 2, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3 o'clock, down to like 7 o'clock at night, those are the peak times, right? So what happens during peak times? Well, during peak times, a lot of people get home from work. They're turn their air conditioner on. It's the hottest part of the day. People think 12 o'clock is the hottest part of the day, but the sun actually it's in its highest point at 12 o'clock. But the energy that from the hottest part of the day is actually right around 2 o'clock, right? So the point being is, so the air conditioners are working the most, people's pools are on, everything, people are just using a lot of energy. They turn the TV on, they're making dinner, they got all kinds of stuff going on. And so, people are home and they're using a lot of energy. So the power plants typically don't make enough energy. So during peak times, what they got to do is they got to fire up what's called peaker plants. And the peaker plants are then, oh, I have a hand raised. Who's that? Sorry. But I know I get distracted. This is my first time doing this live, so please bear with me as far as everything that I'm doing. Um, but I see a hand raised. I got a hand. Oh, but maybe I think I raised my hand. Did I raise my own hand? I think I did. Anyway, uh, so the point being is the peaker plants are there, and the peaker plants they got to turn on during the peak hours. So what they do is they turn on. Let me make this bigger. All right, how do I put my own hand? Lower hand. There you go. It was my hand. I put my own hand up. I thought somebody was here listening to me. And then, by the way, thank you. I see a couple people in here listening. Appreciate your time. So hopefully, giving you some information that you can use, and all this information is just entertainment, but it's good to know these things. So as far as the peaker plants go, that's what I was talking about. So they have to fire up these peaker plants and it costs a lot of money. It costs extra money to just run a power plant or a mini power plant for 4 hours, 5 hours, so that's why they're switching over to these peak and non-peak or off-peak charging systems because they have to start up these generators and it's a big to do to get them started. The worst thing you can do for your car is start your car, right? Now imagine you're trying to start a generator that's making electricity for a whole town, a township, a whole county, a city, right? So it's very damaging to get the whole thing started. They get it up and running, but people want their electricity, right? You don't care. You just want to flip your light on and hope the light comes on. Well, they got to make that electricity, and there's people who are literally always looking at here's the generation, here's the consumption, and they're constantly trying to match the generators to the consumption that's going out there. So this is very inefficient, right? So you got these peaker plants that fire up, they're doing their thing, and then they got to turn them off. And then what happens is nighttime comes, right? So now when nighttime comes, people are asleep. The air conditioner isn't have to work as hard because it's cooler out. There's no sun out. The pool's not on. The TVs are off. Most of the lights are out. So what happens is the generators can't even work at 100%, right? They can't be efficient because there's no draw to the energy and there's no batteries. This is why Tesla is really working on making grid size batteries to deal with these fluctuations that happen in the grid, right? And so what's happening is but the way our current system works is now that these generators that could be working at 100% capacity, they're working at 40%, 50%, 60%, maybe 70% capacity during nighttime. So we're not getting efficiency there either. And so it's just constant ebb and flow. Now, could we fix the grid by adding batteries to it? Yes, it's going to take a while to do that to get the grid batteries. But what people can do, what you can do, the most impactful thing any person can do for the environment, for our environment. I have a pet peeve when people talk about the environment. The environment is fine without us. This is like a George Carlin thing. Like the environment's fine. Like when COVID hit and you saw like the water, like humans went away for a couple of months and the water cleaned itself and the air got better and things were growing and all this stuff happened in literally like a couple months. So it's not the environment. We don't have to save the planet. The planet will be fine without us. We need to save our environment, the environment that we need to breathe and drink water and be healthy and live in. So it's our environment we need. The Earth could be Mars has an environment. It doesn't care about humans. We go there, we die. We go to Venus, we really die, um, real fast. So those are still environments. Those planets are just fine, and Earth will be just fine without people. So we need to care about our environment, so therefore we can live, right? Because we care about us. That's the important thing as far as this goes. So as far as the inefficiency of our power generation and our power plants and our system. And again, the system was made to just get by, but now there's a better way to do it. And the power grid is just aging and it's inefficient and it's really not that good anymore. And and then we have the storms that wipe out these power lines for days. I'm on Long Island when uh Sandy hit, we were out of power for 12 days, and that was crazy. We lost our heat too. So, and we had people coming from all over the place. It's like every time, Katrina happens or the power outage in Texas where they had all the freezing that happened, or, the North Carolina, well, the hurricane that went through just, recently last year. We have to have all these people come in and bring all this equipment and do all this stuff and try to get the power and try to fix the infrastructure and try to do all this stuff. And it's like, we wouldn't need to do that. Like if you had solar and batteries, you could have power immediately back up. It's sort of so the sun comes out, right? And you don't even need the sun out fully. You could be behind clouds and you'll have power. All right. So as far as just infrastructure, it's much better. Um, all right, so let me go to, personal. Like personally, you buying a solar system or getting a solar system, what are the benefits? Well, first of all, for someone to have solar on their house, it costs less than utility. And if you know someone who's looking into solar or interested in solar, have them reach out to me. I'll explain everything. I'll answer the questions. I'm like the worst salesperson ever. Like I just give people the lowest price. I'm just like, I just want you to go solar. Like I just want you to do it. All right. So, because it's just better for you, it's better for your family, it's better for us, all these things I've already been saying about America and the world and energy independent. I just want as many people to go solar as possible. And I'll just explain it to them because I just went and met with some people a couple days ago, a friend of mine from high school, and there was just so much misinformation that they were telling me, and about solar. I'm like, that's not how it works at all. So anyway, personally, why should people go solar? First of all, it costs less than the utility. So let's just start there. Um, it's automatically less. So, and I explained why a minute ago, but I'll do it again. It's because with the utility, they have a big grid that's all over the place that they have to bring the electricity to, and they have to make the electricity using gas and oil, which continues to go up. Where solar, there's a system that's on your house, so it doesn't have to, there's no grid to maintain, it's right there, and the energy comes from the sun. Right? So, and they don't charge us for the sun yet, so they'll find a way eventually. So anyway, point being is that's what you knew. And that's why it's cheaper. So therefore it's cheaper. But not only is it cheaper, but it's locked in. Like you know what you're paying. Like unlike the utility goes up and down, left and right. You have no clue. You're opening your bill every single month and going, like, we don't accept that with like almost anything else. Maybe water. Utilities are really it, where it's like, let me open the bill and figure out what and just be surprised, right? And even people were on balance billing. Like I've seen, my mom was on balance billing before she got solar on her house, and I remember she wasn't my first customer. She didn't go solar. I started selling solar in June of 2023 and excuse me, of 2013. Yeah, 2013. And she didn't go solar till December. And the reason why she went in December is because I tried to explain to her that she was on balance billing. And I'm like, she's like, oh, I pay 100 and 85 excuse me, $135 a month. And I was like, I did the numbers, and I looked at her bills, and I was like, no, you're actually paying $185 a month on average. And she's like, no, I get the bill every month and I know what it is, and it's 135. But they were just undercharging her, right? So every month she was under by another 50 something dollars, but for what they were undercharging her on the balance billing. So that's why she went solar in December, because in December they trued her up and they were like, you need to pay us you need to pay us, excuse me, $400. And she's like, what is this in the middle of December? Why is my electric bill so high? So that's when we got this. That was how I sold my mom, right? On going solar. So the point being is, uh it's just cheaper and you don't have to worry about it. Like the solar company, what they do is they say they figure out the economics, whether you're doing a lease, whether you're doing a loan, it doesn't really matter. And they figure out the economics and they say, okay, here's what it is, and then they make their money and then they're out, and then they're done. And and they don't need to continue charging you over and over more and more and changing the pricing and all that kind of stuff. So, just the fact that it's cheaper and you know exactly what you're going to be paying are two big reasons to switch over to solar and switch every. Oh yeah, I switched two of my friends over to solar before I even worked for solar. Like I was like, you need to do this. It's just the smartest thing to do. Why would you not do that? I don't understand. Now there are some people who can't go solar because the way their house, their roof, they got a lot of different roof angles, and or they need to replace their roof sometimes, or there's blackout spots. There's certain places where the utilities have told people you can't go solar anymore. So that exists. Um, but as far as people who can go solar, if you can, you should do it. I I'm of a belief that even if you charge more, even if solar costs you more, you should do it because of the reasons I just talked about before, as far as the global impact, not even climate change, no climate change. I didn't talk about climate change, but just the global impact and the impact on the USA. But it doesn't cost more. It doesn't cost more, and it doesn't keep going up and down like crazy. So so there's even more reasons that you should do it. Now, if you are actually in a loan, and I guess I'll go through this now, the difference between a loan and a lease as far as solar goes. So I see people like, oh, don't lease, or don't purchase it and let the like. I've heard so many people talk about which is better, which should you do, which shouldn't you do. If you try to sell your home, you're not gonna, and it's in a lease, you're not gonna be able to sell your house. These are all ridiculous things. And I'll show you. I have examples. I have literal examples of my customers. I have over 220 customers, and many over the last 13 years, and many of them have sold their houses, and most of them were in leases, just because when solar got started, it was all leasing. Like the banks didn't even offer a loan, so it was all leasing. And and then it went to loans because interest rates were so low, and people could get a loan, a solar loan for like 1.99%, sometimes 0.99%, was ridiculous. But now with the interest rates the way they are, a lot of people are going back to leasing. And as far as leasing versus a loan, what is the difference? Start with a loan. A loan is simply you're buying solar panels, right? So the bank is going to pay for it. You're going to buy the solar panels. It includes the install. It's nothing out of your pocket. It includes installation. It includes all the warranty. It includes the permits. It includes everything. Everything's included. So there's no extra money you're paying. And then what happens is you're buying a system. They're going to install it, and that system is going to make energy, and that energy is yours. That's how it works. It's your energy, and I'll go through how solar works later, because when you give some to the grid and you take it back, I'll explain all that in a little bit. But as far as that goes, it's your energy. You buy the system, it's your energy. You make energy, so you don't have to buy it from PSCG. So you're or PSCG. That's my utility, but the utility. So your utility bill goes down. It goes or away. In most cases, it goes away. If it depends on how much sun you got and how much roof space you got. So your utility goes away, and then you just have a loan payment. Right, so you have a loan payment. They know the cost of the system. They spread it. They put the interest in. They put the dealer fee in, the bank fee or whatever, and then they spread it over 25 years, and they say, there you go, that's your payment, and it's going to stay the same for the next 25 years. as opposed to utility that's going to go up and down and change and all that kind of stuff. And you're actually buying something. Like your money is not just going to buy some electricity. It's like you're just to it's like paying rent versus actually buying a house, right? So it's not just paying for electricity, you're actually buying a solar system that is a revenue generating asset for your home and eventually will be yours and eventually it'll be paid off. Now, can you pay it off early? Most solar companies will give you a no prepayment penalty to pay it off early. And you come to a bunch of money, you can lower your payments. I know with my company, as long as you pay like $1,500, you can change the you can throw money at it and pay it off sooner and lower your monthly payments if you want to do that. But eventually it's paid off and it's done, and then you have no utility bill. That's the point. That's how it works. So that's a loan, right? That's what that is. A lease. Now, a lease basically means that you're not buying a solar system. It's really just like you're switching electric companies. You're just saying, okay, instead of using my utility, I'm going to go with a different utility, the solar company utility. And instead of having a grid and a power plant 100 miles away, and they're going to bring all the power to my house, they're going to put the panels on my house, make the electricity. And because there's a system that they understand, and because they don't have to buy gas and oil, and they just have to cover the cost of the system, they're going to spread that over 25 years and then they're just going to charge me for the electricity that the system makes. And they don't have to keep changing the price because the system is a set price and the installation is a set price. And then the sun is free. The fuel, right, is free. So they can just charge me a lower rate, right? So instead of paying in now on Long Island, we pay mostly 26, 27 cents per kilowatt hour right now, which is nuts. Um, but so instead of paying that, they'll say, okay, we could charge you, 15 cents or 16 cents or 17 cents, or we can lock it in and it will be 19 cents and it will never go up, right? So um, that's what a lease is. Now, what's the difference as far as the tax credits go? So let me cover that. Why would you do one over another? That's probably a better way to put this. So it's better to do a, let me make myself a little bigger. Since I'm not talking about this, let me stop sharing this. Good. It's better to do, well, it's not better to do either. It's better to do what's best for you. So a loan works better if the system, for a couple of reasons. If the system is more efficient, if it's a very efficient system, because you're buying a solar system, right? So every single panel costs you money, right? And so what happens is, since every panel costs you money, if it's inefficient, you've got a lot of shading from trees and whatnot, and you got to put more panels up, then it's going to increase the cost of the system, and you're not going to get as much savings versus the utility because you got to put a lot more panels because they're inefficient. The panels, we don't even put panels, my company doesn't put a panel on a roof if it's less than 50% efficient. But if you have 60, 70% efficiency and that's all you're getting as opposed to 80 or 90 in a sunny spot, then you got to put more panels, right? So, and therefore your savings goes away because you're buying panels that aren't making as much energy as you need. So if you have an inefficient system, it's better to start looking at a lease, right? Because with a lease, it doesn't really matter how many. Now, there's parameters to this. Obviously, they're not going to put 100 panels up to make you 1,000 kilowatts of energy, right? Um, but the point being is, it doesn't matter how many panels they put up because they're charging you for electricity, right? They're saying we're going to charge you, instead of charging you 26 cents like they do like the utility does, we're going to charge you 15 cents per kilowatt hour. And it doesn't matter how many panels, whether it's 10 panels that make that or 15 panels that make that, we're just going to charge you 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So because you're not buying actual panels, the lease might work out better. Leases typically work a little bit better for people who have east-west houses, where instead of north-south houses, especially if you're, I'm assuming everyone watching this is in North America, right? Or in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere is opposite, right? But because we're in the northern hemisphere, the sun is always to the south, and it rises in the east and it sets in the west. And so the sun is always to the south. So your south-facing roofs are better. They're the most efficient ones, all right, as far as that goes. And so you want to, so that's where you want to put your panels. You don't want to put them on the north side because then the actual house, if the sun is over here, the actual tilt of the house, and the more tilted the roof is, the more the panels over here, right? If the sun is over here, so it's opposite. If the sun's over here, the more tilted the house is, these panels aren't getting as much light. If the house is like this, the roof is like that, then the sun can get over the peak of the home, and you can get a little bit more on that northern side. But the point is if the sun's always to the south. Now, if the sun's to the south and you're putting panels in the south, you're getting very efficient panels. Now alone will work. If you have an east-west house, and especially if it's pitched a lot, then the morning the panels are getting sun, and then on the east side, and then in the evening the panels are getting sun on the west side, right? So they're not as efficient because the actual house and the direction that the panels are put causes them to be inefficient, right? So it's just the mechanics of the sun and the earth, right? So therefore, it might be beneficial to do a lease. Now, that's just you look at you sit with the solar consultant, they kind of go through everything and they explain this is what I do on a daily basis, right? And so the main reason, though, the main difference in a lease and a loan is the tax credit, right? If you are if you are getting the federal tax credit, which is 30%, which I didn't talk about yet, which might be going away, which is why every single person, if you are even thinking about solar, if you know someone who complains about their bills, tell them to get in contact with me, right? Because and immediately, by the way, because the one big beautiful bill that Trump is trying to get through Congress right now. It's already through the House. It might go through the Senate. But if it goes through, it's going to cut the federal ITC, which is the federal credit. And I used to know what ITC stood for, but anyway, you get 30%. So if the solar system's $30,000, you get 10 grand back as the homeowner, right? So if that goes away, it's going to change the whole dynamics. It's going to change the economics. It's going to make it so it's not really affordable for most people to go solar. So um, that's supposed to go away in 2035, but if this bill goes through, it's going to go away this year, at the end of this year. And also what that means is you have to be installed this year, not like, oh, I'm going to sign up in November. That's not good enough. You have to actually be installed. So for people, I would say, what's the saying? Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Like we should prepare as if this credit's going away. It's thousands of dollars, like not like 1,000, 2,000. This is like $10,000 to $20,000 that people would be getting because of the solar credit. It's a huge chunk of change that you're getting to go solar from the federal government, and that's going to go away. So the time now is to do it, is to get solar. But in a loan situation, what happens is the credit goes to whoever owns the system. So as I said, with a loan, you own the system or the homeowner owns the system. So the tax credit goes to you. And then what you do is you take it and you send it to the bank, and that lowers your monthly payment, right? That's how that works. If you're in a lease because you don't own the system, you're just switched electric companies from one to the other, the solar company gets the tax credit, right? And all they do is they just take the tax credit and they apply it to the system. So that's why they can give you a lower rate than what the utility does. That's why they can give you 15, 16, 17 cents versus 26 cents or whatever it is. So that's the thing. Now, if that tax credit goes away, they're not going to be able to give prices that low. They're going to have to, it's going to be, might just be a bill swap. They might just say, okay, instead of paying the utility 26 cents, you can get the solar for 26 cents, but the solar's not going to go up and the utility is something like that. Who knows? Hopefully I don't have to deal with this, but that's how it works. So the point being is, so a lease, typically we'll do leases for people who don't have the income to get the tax credit, because the tax credit it's a dollar for dollar credit, right? It's not a deduction, it's a credit. So the way I explain this is, let's say, you're a W-2 employee, you're having regularly every week the government's stealing money out of your check, right? So for taxes, right? So let's say at the end of the year, you owe $30,000 in taxes. And let's say you perfectly did it so that you took $30,000 of your own money out and saved it for taxes, right? So you owe 30,000 and you've taken 30,000 out of your checks. But you decided to go solar. So you went solar and the system cost you $30,000. Let's again, just making up numbers. The system costs you $30,000. So you get $10,000 tax credit, right? So what happened is you owe 30 grand, you've put away 30 grand, but now the tax credit lowers this side, how much you owe the government. Now it's a dollar for dollar wipeout of what you owe. So now you only owe $20,000. So now the difference is, now it's like, oh, well, I took 30,000, put it away to pay the taxes. I thought I was going to pay 30, now I have to pay 20, so I'm going to get $10,000 back. That's how it works, right? But if you don't owe the government anything in federal taxes because you're retired or you're 1099, you're on your own business, whatever reason if you don't owe any federal taxes, or you don't owe enough. Now it does roll over. Like if you only owed 5,000 in federal taxes and you get a $10,000 tax credit, you can get 5,000 the first year, and then it rolls over, you get the 5,000 next year. However, that's rare that people who actually do that. So with those types of people who don't have the tax appetite, we put them into a lease. Right. So that's when a lease would be better for you. Like, so my mom, who's like a retired teacher, she couldn't get it, she couldn't take advantage of the federal tax credit. So we did a lease with her as opposed to doing a loan. That's it. Right. Now, let me go back to sharing. So what you'll hear sometimes is, don't lease. If you lease, you won't be able to sell your house, right? Because it's a pain in the neck or whatever. I don't know. Real estate agents, here's the thing with real estate agents. They're great, but this is not their expertise. They don't have to do this. So one of the things that I do is I talk to real estate agents all the time. Right. So I'm bringing up, if you're watching me on TikTok, I'm bringing up something I'm live right now on YouTube as well. And so you can see my screen. But as far as selling your home with a lease, right? There really is no difference. It transfers, or you can buy it out, or you can pay out the lease, right? So it's because some people, they hear, like with a lease, this is, I think, what scared my sister at first. She was like, it's like, oh, I'm locked into this 25-year agreement, right? And what if I want to get out, right? So here's the point. You don't need to get out. There's no getting out. I wish it wasn't 25 years. I wish it was 30. When it was 20, I said I wish it was 25. When I was 25, I wish it was 30. Because someone who's using this house is going to buy electricity. It's just how it works, right? So as far as, if you were to sell your house, how does it work? Well, there's two things that happen. So this, you guys again on TikTok can't see this, but this was the worst looking solar system design that I did. The guy hated PSE&G. He used to, well, PSE&G is kind of my utility. He hated the utility company. He used to work for the utility company, and he's got panels in the front of his house, and it's all crazy. And he's got panels on this on this side of the house. He got panels over here. He's got as many panels. He just maxed out his roof. As much panels as we could put, he put them. And I told him, hey, look, we can square this off. We can make it look nicer. And he was like, no, if you do that, I'm going to lose two panels. I hate these SOBs at the utility, and I just don't ever want to pay them a penny more than I ever have to. So he maxed out his roof as much as he could. Now, this gentleman, unfortunately, was a customer. And this is the house, and he unfortunately had a death in his family and had to sell his house the very next year. He only had solar for 1 year, and he had to sell his house. And he lived in a neighborhood where, like, every single house is the same exact type of house. They're all cookie cutter, they all look the same, right? Now, Zillow did an estimate on his home, and they said the estimate for his home was about three. This was back in 2014, 2015. The estimate for his house was $306,000, but he sold his house for 344. Now, why? What happened? How'd that work? What we told so he contacted me and said, I'm looking to sell my house. And then we had our transfer team talk to the real estate agent and explain, here's what you do. And they listed the home at 344, or probably whatever. They basically took whatever, at that time it was a 20-year lease. So they took the 19 years that were still on the lease, and they put it into the asking price of the house. And they said, if you buy this house, you're going to have no electric bill, right? So it will be a zero electric bill home. And that's why we're asking for 344 as opposed to, 300,000. And it sold. And so what he did then is he took that 40,000 and paid out the lease, right? He paid the rest of the money off, and that's it. So now the new person just has no electric bill, and they have a solar system, and that's how it goes. Now, that's one option. Okay, so that's and by the way, that person now owns the solar system, which I'll talk about what's going to happen. Maybe I'll do this next week. I'll talk about the end of leases, what should happen at the end of leases, unless somebody asks me what that question about it, then I'll answer that. I have no one in my chat, right? No. Okay. So the point being is what happened is, so that's one option. That's one way it could go. But let's say the buyer, excuse me, let's say the buyer says, you know what, I'm pre-approved for a loan for $300,000. I completely understand why you're asking for 344. Having no electric bill for a home is amazing. That's awesome. However, like I said, we're pre-approved for 300, not 344, 350. Now, this didn't happen in this scenario, but it could happen. It's happened in other scenarios. What the real estate agent can do is then say, I'll bring this to the buyer, right? Excuse me, to the seller. And they basically don't even have to, and they just say, okay, look, they go back to the buyer and they say, all right, what we can do is we can take the $40,000 off, right? And we'll get you the house for 300,000 for the price you want. However, you'd have to take over the payments for the solar system, right? Which are eliminating the electric bill. So the payments for the solar system, by the way, are lower than what you would pay for. I don't know why it just went black like that. Are lower than what you would pay for your. I don't know why it stopped sharing. Okay, let me bring that back. Is it sharing? Yeah, there it is. But the payments are going to be lower than what your would pay for your electric bill, right? So they're still going to be lower than utility. They just won't be zero. It's not going to be zero. Your electric bill is not going to be zero, but you're going to have a payment for the solar system, and the solar system payments will be lower, and they'll be locked in, and you won't, and they'll be better. And so people will go for that. Why? Why is my live ending? Okay, hopefully it's not. I just dragged the puzzle piece into where it needs to go. Yay. Okay, we're back. So the point being is that they could bring that to the buyer, and the person can say, okay, look, I'll get the house for 300,000, the price I want, and I'll just no one buys a house saying, I want to buy a house that has no electric bill. Like, most buyers expect to pay for electricity, right? So they're like, okay, great, I get a lower electric bill and I get the price I want. Awesome. So this allows the real estate agent to have a negotiation tool that doesn't matter to the buyer, excuse me, to the seller. The seller doesn't care if they pay out the lease with the extra money, or if they move it. So it gives them a way to negotiate without affecting the person who's selling the house, right? So that is how that goes. And by the way, for those of you on YouTube Live, this house sold twice. It sold in 2015 and with this ugly, ugly design and his maxed out panels, and it sold again in 2018. So sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I don't know. What if the person doesn't want to buy it, right? What if they want to get rid of the solar panels?" here's the thing. If everyone goes when someone's buying a home, it's not like this is not like the 1920s, right? It's the 2020s. They can go and look at the house before they could go on Google Maps, they could go on, like, they're going to see it. It's not like they're going to get to the house and be like, what are those things on the roof? They already know there's solar panels there, right? So they're coming to your house because of the fact that there's solar panels, right? If they didn't like solar panels, then you wouldn't even know that those people exist, right? They just wouldn't even, they would say there's solar on the house. I don't like solar. But the people who are looking at the house are they see the house as solar. They say to themselves, I'm going to have, but it's listed as like a green home with no electric bill because of the solar panels. That's who you're dealing with. So it's not like they're going to come to the house in the open house and be like, I need to take the solar panels down. I love the house, but I don't want the solar panels. It's like someone going and saying, I love the house, but can you get rid of the pool? Um, no, if you didn't like pools, then you would they wouldn't be looking at your house, right? So as far as that works, so it just doesn't happen. Like, people like to ask questions about people who are, what if this happens? What if that happens? It's like, I'm sorry. I mean, what if the sun comes up in the west? I don't know. I can't tell you because that's not what happens, right? Um, so yeah, uh, somebody else will buy your house. That's basically how it'll work. As than the person who doesn't like solar panels. And but like I said, I have a great example of front of the house, ugly panels, old panels, sold twice and would probably sell again because a lot of people now, especially with inflation and the way things are going, are looking for ways to save money. Plus, the people who have solar now, they're getting a cheaper rate. Like when this guy bought solar back in 2014, um, the lease rate was much lower than it is because what the solar companies do is as the utility raises their prices, the solar company raises their prices. They're a company, they're a business. So they're going to try to get profit. So every time if the solar company was at 18 cents, then if the utility was at 18 cents per kilowatt hour, then the solar company is going to be at 14 cents per kilowatt hour. When they go up to 20, then we're going to go up to 16. Like, that's just how it works. So the people who bought it at 14, as time goes on and the utility raises, and they look at other solar and they go, wow, well, if I wanted to do solar myself now, I'd have to be paying 20 cents, but I can get your house and it's still locked in at 14, 15, right? So the sooner you do it, there's the phrase, the best the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is today. The second best time is today. Now, if this tax credit goes away, now there's not if there's no 30% for the people who went solar now and they try to sell their house, or the people who have been able to put that into the cost, they're making money on their solar because now somebody else wants to go solar. If there's no tax credit, it doesn't even make sense for them to do it. Now they're stuck with the utility. So now more people will be looking for houses with solar because they can get away from the utilities' crazy rate hikes. So this is why it's an asset to your house. This is why it adds value to your house. And again, this is not, you on TikTok can't see this, but the people on YouTube can. Um, you know, this is Zillow. Zillow, they did a study, and by the way, this has been done by Zillow, Berkeley National Lab. Like, it's been done over and over again, this study, but this is just the most recent one, where they said homes with solar on them sold for 4% more than homes without solar. And that translates to $9,274 more for homes with solar. Now, that's just the United States average. In New York, where I live, now you see Los Angeles and San Francisco and Orlando here, but in New York, where we have much higher electric rates and we have much higher home prices, that equates to $23,000, $24,000 more than homes sold for with solar. This is not, by the way, what they think would happen. This is the actual numbers. This is what happened. Go drink some water. Hey, can I get one like? I see, but somebody's been in here for a while. Thank you for listening. Can I get one heart? I would love one heart. So on my TikTok, can I get a little tap? Just one tap. It'll make my ego go through the roof if I can get a heart. Anyway, YouTube, you can't do hearts, right? So here's the thing. So this tax credit, it's really a big thing. It is something that I really hope doesn't go away. It's something that really will help the American people, and that's how that goes. So what time we got here? Oh, is it really 9:30 already? Wow, my hour went by real fast. Um, so what else should I cover? Well, yeah, actually, yeah, I'm 6 minutes over. I wanted to do this for an hour. I'm going to be doing this every single week, every Monday night. I'm going to keep it probably at 8:30. I might make it 9:30. Um, just because I want to just answer questions. I want people to go solar, whether it's with me. By the way, if you want to contact me, if you want to look into solar for your home, I can work with people in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. So if you're in any of those states and you want to work with me, I can do it virtually. I can do a whole design. Reach out to me. If you know anyone, by the way, my company gives out referrals. So if you fees. So if you refer someone to me, whether you have solar or not, whether you're a homeowner or not, they will pay you $1,000. So they'll give you $1,000 for a referral. So send them, by the way, or you can tell people, hey, they can come to this live that is done every Monday evening, and they can ask questions. Sometimes people don't want to sit with a solar consultant just because they're like, oh, I'm going to get sold, and they don't want to deal with a salesperson. And so if they want to come here and ask questions, and again, they can be anywhere in the world. I might not be able to work on it. They're in Florida or whatever. I can answer questions. I don't mind answering them. But feel free to tell people about this live and just going over solar and explaining it and getting rid of the misinformation out there. And next week I'll go through the kind of the process of solar. I kind of skipped that today, and just how it works on your utility bill, and picking the right companies. I can talk about that, what to look for, what not to look for, how these agreements work when you're looking at agreements. So today we just went through lease versus loan, and what if you move, and that was pretty much the main. And then you got to hear me talk about, why solar is so important to America, the world, America, and you locally, and the benefits of it. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. If you guys want to, by the way, if you go to my website, brightfutureadvocates.com, if you know a high school or college student who's looking to get started working, looking for summer work, I have a lot of remote jobs that are available there. If you're looking for remote work, you can go there and check out. I got a bunch of videos, and you can apply on the website. Or if you want to set up a solar consultation, or if you need a roof, you can go to the website and you can set up an appointment with me right on the site. So thank you for those of you who are here. If you have questions, like I said, I'll be here every Monday night, 8:30 to 9:30. And if we have a good conversation going on and questions, I'll stay even later. So that's it for today. I shall talk to you all soon. Thank you for watching my live. I don't know how to stop it. There it is. I'm going to end that.